When I heard what my best friend said about me in my daughter's therapy session, I felt my world collapse. For months, I couldn't understand why my 8-year-old suddenly hated me. Why she flinched when I tried to hug her, why she'd scream that I didn't really love her. Then the therapist played me the recording of what Veronica had been telling her during their playdates, and I realized my closest friend had been poisoning my child against me. While pretending to help us heal, what I discovered about Veronica's true motives changed everything I thought I knew about friendship, motherhood, and trust. By the time I figured out her game, she'd already tried to convince my daughter that she'd be a better mother than me. But what she didn't know was that I was recording everything too. My name is Emma, and 6 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I was 30 years old, living in a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside Hills with my daughter Lily. And I genuinely believed I was doing okay as a single mom. Not perfect, but okay. I had a steady job as a marketing coordinator at a local tech startup. Lily was thriving in 3rd grade at Maplewood Elementary, and my best friend Veronica lived just 2 blocks away, always ready to help when I needed it. Veronica and I had been inseparable since college. We met freshman year at Northwestern State University, bonded over late-night study sessions and too much coffee, and somehow managed to stay close even when life pulled us in different directions. She'd been there when I got pregnant with Lily, supported me through the messy breakup with Lily's father, and celebrated every milestone with us. When I moved to Riverside Hills 3 years ago for my job, Veronica followed within 6 months, claiming she wanted a fresh start too. I thought it was sweet. I thought she was being a good friend. Veronica worked as a freelance graphic designer, which meant she had a flexible schedule that perfectly complemented my more traditional 9-to-5 routine. She'd pick up Lily from school when I was running late, take her to the park on weekends when I had to work overtime, and even helped with homework when math got too complicated for my liberal arts brain. Lily adored her, called her Aunt V, and would light up whenever she came over. I was grateful, so incredibly grateful. Looking back now, I can see that gratitude was exactly what Veronica was counting on. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday evening in March. I'd been having a particularly stressful week at work. Our biggest client was threatening to pull their contract, and I'd been putting in 12-hour days trying to salvage the relationship. I came home exhausted, ready to collapse on the couch with Lily and watch a movie, maybe order pizza and call it a night. But Lily was different, cold. She barely looked up when I walked through the door, didn't run to give me the usual hug that had become our after-work ritual. Instead, she kept her eyes glued to her tablet, shoulders hunched in a way that made her look older, more guarded. "Hey baby," I said, dropping my purse and kicking off my heels. "How was your day? Did you and Aunt V have fun at the park?" "It was fine," she mumbled, still not looking at me. I frowned. Lily was usually a chatterbox, full of stories about school, about the dogs she'd seen on the walk home, about whatever game she and Veronica had invented. This monosyllabic response was unlike her. "Just fine," I pressed, settling down next to her on the couch. "What did you guys do?" She shrugged. "Stuff." I felt a little knot of worry form in my stomach. "Lily, look at me. Is everything okay?" When she finally lifted her head, I saw something in her eyes that made my chest tighten. It wasn't sadness exactly, or even anger. It was something colder, more distant, like she was looking at a stranger instead of her mother. "Aunt V said you've been working a lot lately," she said carefully, like she was choosing each word. "She said maybe you don't really want to spend time with me." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What, Lily? That's not true. I work so I can take care of you, so we can have our apartment and buy groceries, and she said you could work less if you wanted to," Lily interrupted, her voice getting smaller. "She said other moms choose to be with their kids more." I stared at my daughter, feeling like the ground was shifting beneath me. "Lily, sweetheart, that's not how it works. I have to work. We need the money. And I do want to spend time with you. I love spending time with you." But even as I said it, I could see she didn't believe me. There was something in her expression, a kind of resigned skepticism that looked wrong on an 8-year-old's face. "Okay," she said quietly, but it was the kind of okay that meant nothing was okay at all. That night, After Lily went to bed, I called Veronica. "Hey," she answered on the second ring, her voice warm and familiar. "How are you holding up? You looked pretty wiped out when I dropped Lily off." "I'm fine," I said, though I wasn't sure. That was true, but Lily seemed off tonight. Did something happen at the park? There was a pause. Just a beat, but long enough for me to notice. "Off how?" Veronica asked. She was quiet, distant, and she said something about me not wanting to spend time with her. "Did you guys talk about that?" Another pause, then Veronica sighed. "Emma, I think she's just picking up on your stress. You know how sensitive kids are. She can probably tell you're overwhelmed." "But did you tell her I don't want to spend time with her?" "Of course not," Veronica said, and she sounded genuinely shocked. "Emma, I would never say something like that. Maybe she misunderstood something?" You know how kids are, they hear bits and pieces and fill in the blanks. I wanted to believe her. It made sense. Lily was sensitive, and I had been working more than usual. Maybe she was just feeling the effects of my stress, and I was overthinking things. "You're probably right," I said. I worry, about balancing everything." "I know you do," Veronica said softly. "And that's what makes you a good mom." "But Emma, you can't do everything perfectly. Maybe you should consider cutting back on some of the overtime. Lily needs you present, not just physically there." The words stung, partly because there was truth in them. I had been distracted lately, worried about work, checking emails during dinner, taking calls during Lily's bath time. But hearing it from Veronica, phrased like gentle criticism, made me feel defensive. "I'm doing the best I can," I said. "I know you are. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, maybe there's room for adjustment." After I hung up, I sat on my couch for a long time, staring at the stack of bills on my coffee table. Rent, utilities, groceries, Lily's school supplies, car insurance. The numbers didn't lie. I couldn't just cut back on work, no matter how much I wanted to. But Veronica's words echoed in my head. Maybe there's room for adjustment. The incidents became more frequent after that. Little things at first. Lily would come home from time with Veronica and make comments that felt like tiny daggers. "Aunt V's house smells better than ours." "Aunt V says breakfast food isn't a real dinner." Aunt V asked why we don't have any pictures of my dad. Each comment was small on its own, but together they formed a pattern that made me increasingly uncomfortable. It felt like Lily was comparing me to Veronica and finding me lacking. But when I tried to address it directly, Lily would clam up or insist she hadn't meant anything by it. The breaking point came 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning that should have been perfect. I'd cleared my entire weekend schedule, no work calls, no emails, no distractions. I'd planned a mother-daughter day with Lily, pancakes for breakfast, a trip to the children's museum, maybe a movie afterward. Quality time, just the two of us. But when I went to wake Lily up, I found her bed empty. I checked the bathroom, the living room, even the closets, my heart rate climbing with each empty space. Then I heard voices outside and looked out the window to see Lily in Veronica's front yard, still in her pajamas, throwing a tennis ball for Veronica's golden retriever, Cooper. I threw on a robe and rushed outside, my bare feet hitting the cold concrete of the driveway. "Lily," I called. "What are you doing? How did you get over here?" She looked up at me with that same distant expression I'd been seeing more and more lately. "I wanted to see Cooper," she said simply. "But you were supposed to stay in bed until I came to get you. You can't just leave the apartment without telling me." I was terrified. Veronica straightened up from where she'd been crouched next to Lily, her face arranged in an expression of concern. "Oh my God, Emma, I'm so sorry." I heard her knocking on my door, and when I saw she was alone, I figured you were still sleeping and she got bored. "She knows she's not supposed to leave without permission," I said, trying to keep my voice calm but feeling anything but calm. "Lily, we've talked about this. You can't just wander around by yourself." "I wasn't by myself," Lily said, a hint of defiance creeping into her voice. "I was with Aunt V. That's not the point. Maybe we should go inside and talk about this." Veronica interrupted gently. "Lily, why don't you take Cooper into the backyard while your mom and I chat?" Lily nodded eagerly and ran off with the dog, leaving me standing in Veronica's front yard in my bathrobe, feeling like I was losing control of my own life. "I'm sorry," Veronica said once Lily was out of earshot. "I should have called you immediately. She seemed so sad, Emma. She said she'd been awake for hours and you were still sleeping." "I wasn't sleeping," I said. "I was getting ready for our day. I had this whole thing planned." "She mentioned something about that," Veronica said carefully. "The museum and everything. It sounds nice." "It is nice. Or it was supposed to be." I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. "I don't understand what's happening. She used to be excited about our weekends together. Now it's like she'd rather be anywhere else." Veronica was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice was soft, almost reluctant. "Emma, can I ask you something? And please don't take this the wrong way, but when was the last time you really talked to Lily? I mean, really sat down and asked her how she's feeling about things?" The question caught me off guard. "I talk to her every day. We have dinner together, I help with homework, I know you do. But I mean deeper conversations, about her feelings, about the divorce, about how things have changed since you moved here." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What do you mean?" "What has she told you?" "Nothing specific," Veronica said quickly. I spend a lot of time with her, and I can see she's processing some big emotions. Sometimes kids need a neutral person to talk to, someone who's not directly involved in their situation." The words hit me like a slap. "I'm her mother, Veronica. I'm not directly involved in her situation, I am her situation." "That's not what I meant," Veronica said, but there was something in her eyes, a flicker of something I couldn't quite identify. "I just meant that sometimes kids find it easier to open up to someone who doesn't have emotional investment in the answers." I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "Are you telling me that my daughter finds it easier to talk to you than to me?" "I'm not saying that. I think maybe she's been feeling a little disconnected lately. And I know you're doing your best, but with work being so demanding." "Stop," I said, holding up my hand. "Just stop. I get that you're trying to help, but I don't need you to analyze my relationship with my daughter." Veronica's expression shifted, became cooler. "I'm not analyzing anything, Emma. I'm just sharing what I've observed. If you don't want to hear it, that's your choice." The conversation ended awkwardly, with me collecting Lily and walking back to our apartment in tense silence. But Veronica's words stayed with me, gnawing at me like a persistent ache. Was I really that disconnected from my own daughter? Had I been so focused on providing for her that I'd forgotten to actually be present with her? That night, I tried to have one of those deeper conversations Veronica had mentioned. I sat on Lily's bed after reading her a story and asked how she was feeling about our life in Riverside Hills, about starting at a new school, about missing her dad. "I'm fine," she said, not meeting my eyes. "You can tell me if you're not fine, sweetheart. If something's bothering you, I want to know about it." She was quiet for a long moment, and I thought maybe I was finally getting through to her. Then she looked up at me with those serious 8-year-old eyes and said, "Aunt V says you ask too many questions sometimes." The words felt like a physical blow. "What do you mean?" "She says sometimes when grown-ups ask lots of questions, it means they're worried they did something wrong. And that makes kids feel bad, like they have to make the grown-ups feel better." I sat there, stunned. This wasn't 8-year-old language. These weren't 8-year-old thoughts. This was adult psychology, filtered through my daughter's voice. And it was designed to make me stop asking questions. "Lily," I said carefully, "did Aunt V tell you to say that to me?" "No," she said quickly. Too quickly. We talk about things sometimes. She helps me understand stuff." That night, after Lily was asleep, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what was happening. 6 months ago, my daughter and I had been close. We'd had our challenges, sure, single parenting was never easy, but we'd been a team. Now it felt like there was this invisible barrier between us, and somehow Veronica had become Lily's primary emotional support system. I told myself I was overreacting. Veronica was my best friend. She loved Lily. She was helping us navigate a difficult transition. The fact that Lily felt comfortable talking to her was a good thing, right? It meant she had support, a strong female role model, someone she could trust. But something deep in my gut was telling me that this wasn't normal. This wasn't healthy, and that feeling only got stronger over the next few weeks as Lily became increasingly distant and critical. She started questioning everything I did, why I chose this cereal instead of that one, why we couldn't afford the expensive shoes some of her classmates had, why I looked tired all the time. And always, there were these little comments that seemed to originate from conversations with Veronica. Aunt V says moms who work too much are trying to avoid being home. Aunt V says kids can tell when their parents are stressed about money. Aunt V says some people aren't naturally good at being parents. Each comment was like a tiny poison dart, designed to make me doubt myself, to make me question my choices, my capabilities, my love for my daughter. And the worst part was, they were coming from Lily's mouth, which meant I couldn't respond to them without seeming like I was attacking my own child. It was insidious, brilliant, in a twisted way. Veronica had found the perfect delivery system for her criticism of my own daughter, and there was no way for me to defend myself without looking like I was being defensive with an 8-year-old. The final straw came on a Thursday afternoon. In April, I'd left work early to pick up Lily from school myself, wanting to surprise her and maybe grab ice cream on the way home. But when I got to Maplewood Elementary, Lily wasn't there. Oh, her aunt picked her up about an hour ago, the teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, told me. She had the proper authorization and everything. My blood ran cold. Her aunt, Veronica Hartwell. Yes, that's right. She said there was a family emergency and you'd asked her to collect Lily. I tried to keep my voice steady. Did she say what kind of emergency? Mrs. Rodriguez looked confused. No, she just said you'd called her. Is everything okay? Should I not have let her take Lily? No, it's fine. I managed. Thank you. But it wasn't fine. Not even close. I drove to Veronica's house with my hands shaking, my mind racing through possibilities. Had something happened to someone in my family? Had there been an accident? Why hadn't Veronica called me directly? I found them in Veronica's backyard, Lily and Cooper playing fetch while Veronica sat on her patio with a glass of wine, looking completely relaxed. Emma, she called when she saw me. What are you doing here so early? What am I doing here? I repeated, my voice higher than I intended. Veronica. You picked up my daughter from school and told them there was a family emergency. What emergency? Veronica looked genuinely confused. Emergency? I didn't know. Her expression shifted. Oh, Emma, I think there was a misunderstanding. I just told them you'd asked me to pick her up. I didn't say anything about an emergency. The teacher specifically said you mentioned a family emergency. Well, maybe she misheard me. Or maybe I misspoke. You know how these things get confused. Veronica's voice was casual, dismissive. The important thing is Lily's safe and having fun. I looked over at my daughter, who was completely absorbed in playing with the dog, seemingly oblivious to the tension between the adults. You can't just pick her up without telling me, I said, trying to keep my voice low. I was terrified when she wasn't there. I'm sorry, Veronica said, but she didn't sound sorry. She sounded annoyed. I thought you'd be happy that I was being proactive. Lily mentioned this morning that she wanted to play with Cooper after school, and since you're always so busy, stop, I said. Just stop with the passive-aggressive comments about how busy I am. I'm busy because I'm working to support my daughter. And that doesn't give you the right to make decisions about her without consulting me. Veronica set down her wine glass and looked at me with what I can only describe as pity. Emma, I think you're overreacting. I was just trying to help. By lying to her school, I didn't lie. There was clearly a miscommunication. A miscommunication that you're not taking responsibility for. We stared at each other for a moment, and I saw something flash across Veronica's face, something cold and calculating that was gone so quickly I almost thought I'd imagined it. You know what? She said finally, maybe we should take a break from the regular pickups. I don't want there to be any more miscommunications. It should have felt like a victory, but it didn't. It felt like a threat. That weekend, I decided it was time for professional help. Not because I thought there was anything wrong with Lily. Well, Not exactly, but because I was starting to doubt my own perceptions. Was I being paranoid? Was I seeing problems where none existed? Was Veronica right that I was overreacting? I found Dr. Sarah Chen, a child psychologist in downtown Riverside Hills who specialized in family transitions and divorce counseling. She had warm eyes and a calm demeanor that immediately put me at ease. And she listened without judgment as I explained the situation. I just want to understand what's happening with my daughter, I told her. She's become so distant, so critical. And my friend keeps making these comments about my parenting that I don't know. They feel wrong. Somehow, Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Family dynamics can be complicated, especially when you're adjusting to big changes. How long has your friend been involved in Lily's care? About 3 years, but it's intensified since we moved here. She helps out a lot, pickups, playdates, homework. I've been grateful for the support. And when did you start noticing changes in Lily's behavior? I thought about it. Maybe 3 months ago, she started making these little comments, comparing me to Veronica, questioning my choices. And she's been less affectionate, more withdrawn. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment, making notes. Then she looked up at me. Emma, I'd like to suggest something. I think it would be beneficial for me to meet with Lily individually a few times, just to get her perspective on things. Sometimes children find it easier to express their feelings to a neutral third party. The words echoed what Veronica had said about being a neutral person for Lily to talk to, and I felt a familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach. But Dr. Chen was a professional. This was different. Okay, I said, if you think it will help. What I didn't know then was that Veronica had been planning for this moment. What I didn't know was that she'd been coaching Lily for months, planting seeds of doubt about my love, my competence, my dedication as a mother. What I didn't know was that she'd been positioning herself as the loving, understanding alternative to my supposedly neglectful parenting. What I didn't know was that the next few weeks would almost destroy everything I thought I knew about my relationship with my daughter. But I was about to find out. Dr. Chen's office was exactly what you'd expect from a child psychologist: warm lighting, comfortable chairs, and shelves lined with toys and books that looked inviting rather than clinical. When I brought Lily in for her first session, she seemed nervous but curious, clutching the stuffed elephant I'd bought her the day before as a comfort item. This is just a chance for you to talk to someone new, I told her as we sat in the waiting room. Dr. Chen wants to get to know you, and you can tell her anything you want about how you're feeling. Lily nodded solemnly, swinging her legs from the chair that was slightly too tall for her. Will you be in there with me? Not this time, sweetheart. It'll just be you and Dr. Chen. But I'll be right here waiting. Okay. The session lasted 50 minutes. And I spent every one of them pacing the waiting room, checking my phone, and trying not to imagine what Lily might be telling this stranger about our life. When the door finally opened, Lily emerged looking lighter somehow, less burdened. Dr. Chen walked her out with a gentle smile. How did it go? I asked, looking between them. Lily did great, Dr. Chen said. She's a very articulate young lady. I'd like to schedule another session for next week if that works for you. Sure, I said, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. Whatever you think is best. On the drive home, I tried to casually ask Lily about the session. So, did you like Dr. Chen? Was it fun to talk to her? Yeah, Lily said, staring out the window. She has nice toys. What did you guys talk about? Just stuff. About school and friends and things. I wanted to press for more details, but I remembered Veronica's comment about asking too many questions, and I forced myself to let it go. This was supposed to be helping Lily, not satisfying my curiosity. The second session was scheduled for the following Thursday. I dropped Lily off and went to grab coffee at the little cafe next door, trying to use the time productively rather than spiraling into worry. I was halfway through answering emails when my phone rang. Hi Emma, it's Veronica. I felt my shoulders tense automatically. We hadn't spoken much since the school pickup incident, and our interactions had been polite but strained. Hi, I said. What's up? I was just wondering how Lily's doing with the therapy sessions. She mentioned she'd started seeing someone. My grip tightened on the phone. She mentioned it to you when? "Oh, we ran into each other at the grocery store yesterday." She seemed excited about it. Said the doctor had lots of toys. I tried to remember if I'd seen Veronica at Riverside Market the day before, but I'd been rushed, grabbing ingredients for dinner between work and picking up Lily from her after-school program. It was entirely possible I'd missed them. "Yeah, she seems to like Dr. Chen," I said carefully. "That's wonderful. I'm so glad you're getting her the support she needs." There was something in Veronica's tone that I couldn't quite place. It sounded genuine, but there was an undertone that felt almost satisfied. Sometimes kids just need a neutral space to process their feelings. There was that word again, neutral, as if I, her mother, was somehow biased in wanting to understand my own daughter's emotional state. "Right," I said. "Well, I should probably go. I want to be back when her session ends." "Of course. Give her my love." I hung up feeling unsettled, though I couldn't pinpoint exactly why. Maybe it was just the awkwardness of our recent tension, or maybe it was something deeper. Either way, I couldn't shake the feeling that Veronica's interest in Lily's therapy felt inappropriate somehow. When I picked up Lily after her session, she seemed subdued again. Dr. Chen walked us to the door with her usual professional smile, but I thought I detected something different in her expression. More serious, perhaps. "Same time next week?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Is she doing okay?" Dr. Chen glanced at Lily, who was examining a colorful fish tank in the corner. "She's processing a lot right now. These things take time." It wasn't exactly reassuring, but I nodded and scheduled the next appointment. That weekend, I decided to plan something special for Lily and me. No distractions, no work calls. Just quality mother-daughter time. I suggested we visit the new Children's Science Museum that had opened in downtown Cedar Valley, about an hour's drive from Riverside Hills. "Can Aunt V come?" was Lily's immediate response. The question hit me like a slap. "This is supposed to be just us time, sweetheart. You and me. But it would be more fun with Aunt V. She knows It should have felt like a victory, but it didn't. It felt like a threat. That weekend, I decided it was time for professional help. Not because I thought there was anything wrong with Lily, well, not exactly, but because I was starting to doubt my own perceptions. Was I being paranoid? Was I seeing problems where none existed? Was Veronica right that I was overreacting? I found Dr. Sarah Chen, a child psychologist in downtown Riverside Hills who specialized in family transitions and divorce counseling. She had warm eyes and a calm demeanor that immediately put me at ease. And she listened without judgment as I explained the situation. "I just want to understand what's happening with my daughter," I told her. "She's become so distant, so critical. And my friend keeps making these comments about my parenting that I don't know. They feel wrong." Somehow, Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Family dynamics can be complicated, especially when you're adjusting to big changes." "How long has your friend been involved in Lily's care?" "About 3 years, but it's intensified since we moved here. She helps out a lot, pickups, playdates, homework." I've been grateful for the support. "And when did you start noticing changes in Lily's behavior?" I thought about it. Maybe 3 months ago, she started making these little comments, comparing me to Veronica, questioning my choices. And she's been less affectionate, more withdrawn. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment, making notes. Then she looked up at me. "Emma, I'd like to suggest something. I think it would be beneficial for me to meet with Lily individually a few times, just to get her perspective on things. Sometimes children find it easier to express their feelings to a neutral third party." The words echoed what Veronica had said about being a neutral person for Lily to talk to, and I felt a familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach. But Dr. Chen was a professional. This was different. "Okay," I said, "if you think it will help." What I didn't know then was that Veronica had been planning for this moment. What I didn't know was that she'd been coaching Lily for months, planting seeds of doubt about my love. That night, after Lily was in bed, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures from our early days in Riverside Hills, when Lily still smiled easily and hugged me without reservation. In almost every recent photo, though, she looked more distant, more guarded. When had that change happened, and why hadn't I noticed it sooner? I was so lost in the photos that I almost missed the soft knock on my door. When I opened it, Veronica was standing in the hallway with a bottle of wine and a sympathetic expression. "Hey," she said softly, "I saw you guys come back from your museum trip earlier. You looked distressed, thought you might want to talk." Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, but part of me was desperate for someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. That the growing distance with Lily was just a phase, that everything would be okay. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. We settled on my couch with glasses of wine, and for a moment, it felt like old times. Veronica had always been a good listener. Supportive and understanding. It was what had made our friendship so strong for so many years. "So how was the museum?" she asked. I sighed. It was hard. She seemed like she was just going through the motions, like she didn't really want to be there with me. Veronica nodded sympathetically. "Kids go through phases. She's probably just adjusting to all the changes in her life, but it's been 3 years since the divorce. And she seems fine with everyone else. She lights up when she's with you. That's different, though," Veronica said gently. "I'm not her parent. There's no pressure with me. Sometimes kids act out with their parents because they feel safe to do so. It's actually a sign of trust. Acting out would be one thing. This feels more like withdrawal. Like she's pulling away from me." Veronica was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in her glass. "Can I ask you something? And please don't take this the wrong way." I braced myself. "Sure. Have you considered that maybe she's picking up on your anxiety? Kids are incredibly perceptive. If you're constantly worried about your relationship with her, she's going to sense that energy." "So you're saying this is my fault?" "No, that's not what I'm saying at all." Veronica's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm saying that sometimes we can create the very problems we're trying to avoid. If you're constantly analyzing every interaction, looking for signs that something's wrong, Lily's going to feel that scrutiny." The words stung because there was truth in them. I had been analyzing everything, looking for problems, second-guessing myself constantly. But which came first, my anxiety or Lily's withdrawal? "Maybe you're right," I said reluctantly. I love her so much, and I want to get this right." "I know you do," Veronica said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "And that's exactly why you're going to figure this out. You just need to relax a little, trust the process. The therapy will help." "Have you talked to her about the therapy sessions?" Veronica paused, her glass halfway to her lips. "A little. She mentioned that she likes her doctor." "What else did she say about it?" "Nothing specific. Just that it's nice to have someone to talk to who doesn't get upset when she shares her feelings." The comment hit me like a physical blow. "I don't get upset when she shares her feelings." "I'm sure you don't mean to," Veronica said carefully. "But sometimes when kids say things that worry us, we react emotionally even when we're trying not to. It's natural." "What kinds of things has she said that made you think I react emotionally?" Veronica looked uncomfortable. "Emma, I don't think we should, please. I need to know what she's telling you." Veronica sighed. "She's mentioned that sometimes when she tries to tell you she's sad or worried, you get this look on your face that makes her feel like she said something wrong. Like you're scared or upset." "What look?" "I don't know how to describe it, but she's noticed it, and it makes her hesitant to open up to you." I sat there absorbing this information, feeling like I was drowning. My daughter was apparently afraid to share her feelings with me because my face betrayed my own anxiety. I was failing at the most basic level of motherhood, creating a safe space for my child to be honest about her emotions. "What should I do?" I asked quietly. "Just try to stay calm when she talks to you. Don't let your worry show on your face. Maybe practice in the mirror or something." The suggestion felt both helpful and humiliating. Practice not looking worried about my daughter in the mirror. How had it come to this? After Veronica left, I did exactly what she suggested. I stood in my bathroom, looking at my reflection, trying to school my features into an expression of calm acceptance. But all I could see was a woman who was losing her child and didn't know how to stop it. The third therapy session was on a Tuesday. I'd been practicing my calm face all week, trying to be more relaxed and less reactive when Lily spoke to me. When I dropped her off at Dr. Chen's office, I made sure to smile and keep my voice light. Have fun, sweetheart. I'll see you in a little bit." Lily nodded and disappeared into the office with Dr. Chen. I settled into the waiting room with a book, determined to use the time productively instead of worrying. 20 minutes into the session, Dr. Chen's door opened. That was unusual. The sessions were supposed to last 50 minutes. I looked up to see Dr. Chen gesturing for me to come over. "Is everything okay?" I asked quietly. "Could I speak with you for just a moment?" "Lily's fine. She's drawing a picture for you." We stepped into a small consultation room adjacent to her office. Dr. Chen closed the door and turned to me with an expression I couldn't read. "Emma, I want to ask you about something Lily mentioned today. She talked about a friend of yours who helps take care of her sometimes. Veronica, I think." My stomach dropped. "Yes, that's right. She's been very helpful since we moved here. Lily seems to have a very close relationship with her." "They do get along well," I said carefully. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I want to be sensitive about this, but Lily has mentioned some conversations she's had with Veronica about your relationship with her, about your parenting." "What kind of conversations?" "According to Lily, Veronica has discussed with her whether you truly enjoy being a mother, whether you might be happier with a different kind of life. She's also apparently talked to Lily about signs that a parent might not be emotionally available." The words hit me like a series of physical blows. "She what?" I want to be clear that I'm only sharing what Lily has told me. And children sometimes misinterpret adult conversations. But I felt it was important for you to know that these discussions are happening. I felt like I was going to be sick. "What exactly did Lily say?" Dr. Chen consulted her notes. "She said that Veronica told her that some mothers have children because they think they should, not because they really want to. And that sometimes those mothers work a lot or seem tired because they're trying to avoid spending time at home. That's not. I work because I have to, because we need the money." I understand that. But from Lily's perspective, she's being told by an adult she trusts that your behavior patterns might indicate a lack of genuine maternal attachment. The clinical language made it worse somehow. Veronica wasn't just undermining me, she was systematically destroying my daughter's faith in my love for her. "There's more," Dr. Chen continued gently. "Lily also mentioned that Veronica has talked to her about what it would be like to live in a different kind of family, one where the mother was home more, had more patience, was less stressed about money." I stared at her, feeling like the ground was disappearing beneath my feet. "She's been talking to my 8-year-old about alternative living arrangements." Again, this is filtered through a child's understanding, so I can't say exactly what was discussed. But Lily seems to have gotten the impression that Veronica thinks she might be happier in a different environment. The room was spinning. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. What do I do first? Take a breath. This is manageable. But I do think we need to have some very clear conversations about boundaries. Adults who aren't family members shouldn't be discussing a child's living situation or questioning their parents' love for them. Should I confront Veronica about this? Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. "That's ultimately your decision. But before you do anything, I'd like to suggest that we continue Lily's sessions for a few more weeks. I want to understand the full scope of what's been discussed and help Lily process these confusing messages she's been receiving." "Confusing messages," I repeated numbly. "Emma, I want you to understand something. Based on my sessions with Lily, I see no evidence that she doubts your love for her at her core, but she's been exposed to ideas that are causing her to question her own perceptions. Someone has taught her to intellectualize your relationship instead of feeling it." The words were meant to be comforting, but they terrified me. My daughter had been taught to analyze my love instead of trusting it. How did you undo that kind of damage? I returned to the waiting room feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. When Lily emerged from her session, she handed me a drawing of two stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. One was labeled Mom and the other me. "It's beautiful," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I love it." She smiled, and for just a moment, she looked like my little girl again. But I could see the uncertainty in her eyes, the questions that Veronica had planted there. That night, After Lily was asleep, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine and tried to process what Dr. Chen had told me. My best friend, someone I'd trusted with my most precious relationship, had been systematically turning my daughter against me, not through dramatic accusations or obvious manipulation, but through subtle psychological warfare designed to make an 8-year-old question the most fundamental truth of her existence, that her moth or loved her unconditionally. I thought about all the little comments Lily had made over the past few months, all the moments when she'd seemed to be parroting adult insights about my behavior. Veronica hadn't just been sharing her opinions with Lily, she'd been conducting a campaign to undermine my relationship with my daughter. But why? What could she possibly gain from destroying my family? The answer, when it came to me, was so obvious I couldn't believe I'd missed it. Veronica wanted Lily, not in any legal sense, she wasn't trying to gain custody or anything like that, but she wanted to be the primary maternal figure in Lily's life. She wanted to be the one Lily turned to for comfort, guidance, love. She wanted to replace me without actually having to take responsibility for raising a child. It was the perfect setup. All the benefits of motherhood, the love, the adoration, the special relationship without any of the hard parts. No 2 a.m. fevers, no financial stress, no disciplinary decisions, just fun times and emotional intimacy while I handled all the actual work of parenting. And if Lily preferred her to me, if my daughter gradually pulled away and started seeing Veronica as her real maternal figure, well, that would just prove that Veronica was naturally better at this than I was. I finished my wine and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Veronica yet. Dr. Chen was right that I needed to understand the full scope of what had been happening. But I was going to start protecting my daughter from further manipulation. The next morning, I called Veronica. "Hey," she answered cheerfully. "How are you doing?" "I'm fine," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I wanted to let you know that Lily's therapy schedule is going to be changing for a while. Dr. Chen wants to see her more frequently, and we're going to be pretty busy with that." "Oh," Veronica said. "Is everything okay? That sounds intensive." "It's just a temporary thing, but it means we won't be able to do as many playdates for the next few weeks." There was a pause. "Well, if you need me to help with pickups or anything, thanks, but I've got it covered. I'm actually cutting back on some work commitments so I can be more available." "That's great, Emma. I'm sure Lily will appreciate having more time with you." The words sounded supportive, but I could hear something else underneath them. Disappointment, maybe. Or frustration. "I hope so," I said. "I'll call you soon, okay?" After I hung up, I felt a small sense of relief. For the first time in months, I was taking control of the situation instead of just reacting to it. But I also knew this was just the beginning. Whatever Veronica had been planning, cutting off her access to Lily was only going to make her more desperate. And desperate people, I was learning, were capable of almost anything. That afternoon, I picked up Lily from school myself and suggested we stop for ice cream on the way home. As we sat in the bright pink booth at Scoops and Smiles, watching her attack a sundae that was bigger than her head, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe we could get through this. Maybe the damage could be undone. "Mom," Lily said, looking up from her ice cream with chocolate sauce on her nose. "Yeah, baby, are you and Aunt V fighting?" The question caught me off guard. "Why do you ask that?" She seemed sad when she texted me today. My blood went cold. "She texted you? On what?" "My tablet. She said she missed me and hoped I was having a good day at school." I stared at my daughter, trying to process this information. Veronica had direct access to Lily through her tablet. They'd been communicating without my knowledge. "How long has she been texting you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "I don't know. A while. She sends me funny pictures and stuff." "Can you show me?" Lily hesitated. She said it was our special way of talking. Like how grown-ups have private conversations sometimes. There it was, the secret communication channel that I'd never known about. How many messages had been exchanged? What else had Veronica been telling my daughter in these private conversations? "Lily," I said carefully, "I need you to understand something. Adults shouldn't ask kids to keep secrets from their parents. If someone asks you not to tell me about something, That's when you definitely should tell me. She looked confused. But Anvi didn't say it was a secret, she just said it was our special thing. The distinction was subtle but important. Veronica was too smart to explicitly ask Lily to keep secrets. Instead, she'd frame their communication as something special and private, which would naturally make a child less likely to mention it to others. From now on, I said, I'd like you to let me know when Anvi texts you, okay? Not because you're in trouble, but because I like to know who you're talking to. Lily nodded solemnly. Okay, Mom. But as we walked back to the car, I could see her processing this new rule, trying to figure out what it meant for her relationship with Veronica. And I realized that this was just the tip of the iceberg. If Veronica had been communicating with Lily privately through her tablet, what else had been happening that I didn't know about? That night, after Lily was asleep, I checked her tablet. The messaging app showed a conversation history with Veronica going back months. Hundreds of messages, photos, funny memes, little check-ins throughout the day, and scattered throughout the casual chatter were more pointed messages. Hope your mom isn't too stressed today. Remember what we talked about, grown-ups sometimes need space when they're overwhelmed. You're such a smart girl for understanding that people show love in different ways. Each message was innocent on its own, but together they formed a pattern of subtle manipulation. Veronica had been conducting a parallel relationship with my daughter, one designed to reinforce all the doubts she'd been planting during their in-person conversations. I screenshotted everything and emailed it to Dr. Chen. Then I disabled Lily's messaging app and made a mental note to have a conversation with her about online safety and communication. But as I sat in my dark living room, scrolling through months of secret messages between my best friend and my daughter, I realized that this was so much worse than I'd initially thought. This wasn't just casual undermining or misguided advice. This was a systematic campaign to replace me in my daughter's affections. And Veronica was just getting started. Tomorrow, I would call Dr. Chen and schedule an emergency session. Tonight, I would start documenting everything. Because I had a feeling I was going to need evidence of what had been happening when this whole situation finally exploded, which, based on the escalating pattern I was beginning to see, was going to be very soon. The emergency session with Dr. Chen was scheduled for the next afternoon. I'd barely slept, my mind racing through everything I'd discovered, the secret messages, the manipulation tactics, the systematic campaign to undermine my relationship with Lily. When I arrived at her office, I brought printed screenshots of every conversation between Veronica and my daughter. This is extensive, Dr. Chen said, reviewing the evidence spread across her desk. And it confirms what Lily has been telling me in our sessions. There's more. My voice came out as barely a whisper. Dr. Chen nodded gravely. Emma, I need to share something with you, but I want you to prepare yourself. Last week, I made the decision to record my session with Lily with her permission, of course. It's something I do occasionally when I'm concerned about potential psychological manipulation of a child. My heart started pounding. What did she say? It would be better if you heard it directly. Are you prepared for that? I nodded, though I wasn't sure I was prepared for anything anymore. Dr. Chen pulled out a small digital recorder and placed it on the table between us. This is from yesterday's session. Lily was talking about a conversation she had with Veronica the day before, apparently right after you told Veronica about the Schedule C hinges. She pressed play, and suddenly my daughter's voice filled the room, clear and innocent and heartbreaking. Aunt V was really sad yesterday, Lily's recorded voice said. She said she was worried about me because my mom seems really stressed lately. What did she say about your mom being stressed? Dr. Chen's voice on the recording was gentle, encouraging. She said that sometimes when parents are really overwhelmed, they start to resent their kids, like, they love them but they also wish their life was different. And she said that's not the kid's fault. But it's still really hard for everyone. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Veronica had told my 8-year-old daughter that I might resent her. The recording continued, and then she said that if I ever felt like my mom was pulling away from me, I shouldn't take it personally, because some people just aren't meant to be parents, even if they try really hard. Dr. Chen paused the recording and looked at me with professional concern. There's more, but I want to check in with you first. How are you feeling? I'm going to kill her, I said flatly. I'm literally going to kill her. I understand you're angry. That's completely appropriate. But let's channel that anger into protecting Lily, okay? I nodded, wiping tears from my eyes that I hadn't realized were falling. Play the rest. Dr. Chen pressed play again. Lily's voice continued, now talking about something that made my blood run cold. Aunt V asked me if I ever thought about what it would be like to live with her instead. Like, just for a little while, if my mom needed a break. She said her house is bigger and she doesn't have to work as much, so she could spend more time with me. The recording captured Dr. Chen asking follow-up questions, and Lily explaining that Veronica had described this as a fun sleepover that might last a while, a way to help both Lily and me by giving us some space. She said sometimes families need time apart to remember how much they love each other. Lily's voice continued, and she said she's always wanted to know what it would be like to have a daughter, so it would be fun for her too. I couldn't listen anymore. Turn it off, I said. Please, turn it off. Dr. Chen stopped the recording. Emma, what Veronica has been doing is called parental alienation. It's a form of psychological abuse where someone systematically undermines the relationship between a parent and child. In some cases, the end goal is to remove the child from the parent's care entirely. She wants to take Lily. It wasn't a question. Based on what I've observed, yes, I think that's her ultimate objective. She's been grooming Lily to see you as inadequate and herself as a better alternative. The clinical language helped somehow. It gave me a framework for understanding what had been happening to us. This wasn't just friendship drama or parenting disagreements. This was abuse. What do? I asked. First, we document everything. I'll be writing a detailed report about my observations and the conversations I've had with Lily. Second, you need to completely cut off Veronica's access to your daughter. No more playdates, no more texts, no more contact of any kind. And if she fights me on that, Dr. Chen's expression was serious, then you consider legal intervention. What she's been doing could constitute harassment and psychological abuse of a minor. I left Dr. Chen's office with copies of the recordings and a plan. First, I would have one final conversation with Lily to explain what was happening in age-appropriate terms. Then I would confront Veronica. Not to argue or negotiate, but to make it clear that her campaign against my family was over. That evening, I sat Lily down on her bed with her favorite stuffed animal and had the hardest conversation of my life. Sweetheart, I need to talk to you about Aunt V, I began. Some of the things she's been telling you about me and about our family aren't true. Lily looked confused. What do you mean? I mean that when she tells you I might not really want to be your mom, or that I'm stressed because I don't like being with you, those things are lies. But why would she lie? It was the question I'd been dreading. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that someone they trust has been manipulating them? Sometimes grown-ups want things they can't have, I said carefully, and sometimes they try to get those things by making other people confused or sad. What does Aunt V want? I took a deep breath. I think she wants to be your mom instead of me. Lily was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. But you're already my mom, that's right. I'm your mom, and I always will be, and nothing will ever change that. But Aunt V has been trying to make you think I don't love you enough, so that you might want to live with her instead. Is that why she asked me about the sleepover thing? My heart clenched. Yes, baby. That's exactly why. Lily looked down at her stuffed elephant, thinking hard. I told her I didn't want a long sleepover because I'd miss you too much, and she looked kind of mad. She did, yeah. She said maybe I'd change my mind when I got older and understood things better. The conversation with Veronica was scheduled for the next day. I'd called her that morning and asked her to come over after Lily was at school, telling her we needed to discuss some changes in our arrangement. She'd agreed readily, probably thinking she was going to get a chance to convince me that I was overreacting. She was wrong. When Veronica arrived at my apartment, she was carrying a coffee for me from my favorite cafe, a gesture that would have seemed thoughtful a week ago but now felt She said that sometimes when parents are really overwhelmed, they start to resent their kids. Like, they love them but they also wish their life was different. And she said that's not the kid's fault. But it's still really hard for everyone. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Veronica had told my 8-year-old daughter that I might resent her. The recording continued, and then she said that if I ever felt like my mom was pulling away from me, I shouldn't take it personally, because some people just aren't meant to be parents, even if they try really hard. Dr. Chen paused the recording and looked at me with professional concern. There's more, but I want to check in with you first. How are you feeling? I'm going to kill her, I said flatly. I'm literally going to kill her. I understand you're angry. That's completely appropriate. But let's channel that anger into protecting Lily, okay? I nodded, wiping tears from my eyes that I hadn't realized were falling. Play the rest. Dr. Chen pressed play again. Lily's voice continued, now talking about something that made my blood run cold. Aunt V asked me if I ever thought about what it would be like to live with her instead. Like, just for a little while, if my mom needed a break. She said her house is bigger and she doesn't have to work as much, so she could spend more time with me. The recording captured Dr. Chen asking follow-up questions, and Lily explaining that Veronica had described this as a fun sleepover that might last a while, a way to help both Lily and me by giving us some space. She said sometimes families need time apart to remember how much they love each other. Lily's voice continued, and she said she's always wanted to know what it would be like to have a daughter, so it would be fun for her too. I couldn't listen anymore. Turn it off, I said. Please, turn it off. Dr. Chen stopped the recording. Emma, what Veronica has been doing is called parental alienation. It's a form of psychological abuse where someone systematically undermines the relationship between a parent and child. In some cases, the end goal is to remove the child from the parent's care entirely. She wants to take Lily. It wasn't a question. Based on what I've observed, yes, I think that's her ultimate objective. She's been grooming Lily to see you as inadequate and herself as a better alternative. The clinical language helped somehow. It gave me a framework for understanding what had been happening to us. This wasn't just friendship drama or parenting disagreements. This was abuse. What do? I asked. First, we document everything. I'll be writing a detailed report about my observations and the conversations I've had with Lily. Second, you need to completely cut off Veronica's access to your daughter. No more playdates, no more texts, no more contact of any kind. And if she fights me on that, Dr. Chen's expression was serious, then you consider legal intervention. What she's been doing could constitute harassment and psychological abuse of a minor. I left Dr. Chen's office with copies of the recordings and a plan. First, I would have one final conversation with Lily to explain what was happening in age-appropriate terms. Then I would confront Veronica. Not to argue or negotiate, but to make it clear that her campaign against my family was over. That evening, I sat Lily down on her bed with her favorite stuffed animal and had the hardest conversation of my life. Sweetheart, I need to talk to you about Aunt V, I began. Some of the things she's been telling you about me and about our family aren't true. Lily looked confused. What do you mean? I mean that when she tells you I might not really want to be your mom, or that I'm stressed because I don't like being with you, those things are lies. But why would she lie? It was the question I'd been dreading. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that someone they trust has been manipulating them? Sometimes grown-ups want things they can't have, I said carefully, and sometimes they try to get those things. The next few weeks were challenging. Lily asked about Veronica several times, and I had to carefully explain that sometimes relationships change and people can't be part of our lives anymore. She seemed to understand on some level, and as the days passed without Veronica's subtle undermining, I began to see my real daughter re-emerging. She started hugging me spontaneously again. She stopped making those pointed comments about my parenting. She began to trust my love for her instead of analyzing it. Dr. Chen continued working with both of us, helping Lily process the confusing messages she'd received and helping me rebuild confidence in my parenting. The recordings she'd made became part of a formal report that would be available if Veronica ever tried to pursue any kind of custody claim, though thankfully, that never happened. 3 months later, I got a call from a mutual friend telling me that Veronica had moved away from Riverside Hills. She'd apparently told people she needed a fresh start. That small-town life wasn't for her anymore. I felt nothing but relief. 6 months after that final confrontation, Lily and I were stronger than ever. We'd weathered a storm that could have destroyed our relationship. And we'd come out the other side more connected and more trusting than before. Sometimes I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found those text messages, if Dr. Chen hadn't made those recordings, if I hadn't recognized the signs of manipulation in time. Would Veronica have eventually convinced Lily that she'd be better off with her? Would my daughter have grown up believing that her mother's love was conditional and inadequate? I'll never know for sure. But what I do know is this: trust your instincts when something feels wrong, especially when it comes to your children. Document everything. Don't be afraid to seek professional help. And remember that sometimes the people who seem most helpful are actually the most dangerous. Veronica almost succeeded in her plan. She was smart, patient, and methodical. But she made one crucial mistake. She underestimated how much I love my daughter and how far I'd go to protect her. That love saved us both. And now, whenever Lily tells me she loves me, I know she means it completely, without doubt or analysis or hidden reservations, because nobody is whispering lies in her ear anymore. Nobody is teaching her to question the most fundamental truth of her existence, that her mother loves her unconditionally and always will. And that, more than anything else, is why I'll never regret cutting Veronica out of our lives. Because some boundaries aren't just important, they're survival. What do you think? Did I go too far, or not far enough? Let me know in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button. You never know when you might need to recognize these warning signs in your own life. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.